just a teeny bit of it. Good. Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just making sure I'm sleeping good. We got some facial problems. Zygomatic and some too. Looks like.
Should I take the clothes off? Yeah, why not? They're side and back, right? Classic. I like when the brick are all strung through the strings. Oh, that's rose.
I think it was only the calcaneus that was mixed.
That's good. Okay, I'm gonna leave these vertebrae there.
Is it the third cuneiform that's the tiniest one?
I think it's the middle one. It's always the one I don't think it is.
The middle one's the biggest.
Oh, that's what it is. That's the secret. Wait, did you say the lateral or the middle?
I
think the lateral one's
the lateral is smallest.
I don't know. Look at those, which one only has one side of articulation.
Well, the thing is they both have.
They all have
They
four
both
sides
have
of
some
articulation.
sides.
Because there should be one that's has no articulation on one side. Alright, here come the ribs. Well, we're missing one, so that's why there is a gap there. Just has some white bones. And something else.
I don't know why I grabbed the foot. My least favorite out of all of them.
Oh, you want to order it? Not missing from purples. And okay. Well, let's distribute that. We have a crumb. And I think the right, I count again, but I think the right side's missing one, so. Did I just kill them?
Oh,
I counted
no.
wrong. Let's see, so yep, we're all good. Well, then maybe one of them is more different.
We're gonna like stick out. That's very straight.
Yeah, one of them had like
That one?
yeah, that one. But it was almost like it was. I feel like it was almost. I just feel like it turns really fast there.
I think they were its options. But this one's more. Oh, gotcha. We swapped them.
That would make sense.
Yeah. That works.
And that would make sense.
I'm gonna go double check.
Which one is it?
Very well done. That is you're hired.
It was too good.
Come back anytime.
Wait.
Which one?
Yeah.
So she has a name. What can you tell me about this person?
Oh, well, so we usually do what's called a biological profile, which we estimate the sex of a skeleton, the stature of a skeleton, the age range, and then the population affinity, which basically means like their ancestry. But we use population affinity because ancestry and race is not a biological phenomenon. So population affinity is what we use in the field.
Interesting. So first thing when the skeleton arrives or the remains arrive, that's the first thing you do.
That's the basic that we do for most of them,
Okay.
since when most of the cases that we get are unidentified human remains. So we establish that biological profile to help police narrow down potential missing persons so they can ultimately identify the remains.
Now you get to do the grad student part. How do you know all that? How do you tell sex, posture, I think you said?
Stature.
Stature, okay.
So for sex, the most reliable is the pelvis because, females have to give birth. So we have some shape differences in there, mostly that women have like a wider pelvis to accommodate the childbirth. Their pubic bone, which is this bone right here, is a lot broader and has more of a rectangular shape. In males, it's more of a triangular shape.
Okay.
And that's the best way to estimate sex. The other thing that you could use is the skull, but it's a little bit less reliable.
Okay.
And then for stature, what we use is the kind of ratio of the lower leg with the thigh. So we use an osteometric board to measure the bones. And then we plug in those numbers through some equations that are population and sex specific to get an approximate stature.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did you say?
Age
Age,
and
yeah.
population affinity. So age is a little bit more tricky. There's several methods that can be used, but we use the pubic symphysis, which is this portion right here, which is the joint that holds your pelvis together. And it's a relatively stable joint, so it's a little bit more accurate for aging. And we also use the end of the ribs. Yeah. We usually use rib number 4. And so there's some characteristics in there that follow age ranges. And so we use those. And those are the most common ones.
Interesting. Rib number 5 is always my favorite, but 4, that, okay.
5 could also work. There's like a little range because sometimes we don't get, all of the bones in the human skeleton. So
That was awesome.
we also work with what we end up having. So sometimes we might not have a pelvis, so we just use the ribs. Or sometimes we don't have ribs, so we just use the pelvis.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get.
Make it more interesting or more difficult, or I guess both?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more difficult just because we don't have the bones that we usually use for certain estimates, and there's not many other methods for other bones, especially when it comes with age. Just because most of the joints in our body are so movable, it gets affected with your physical activity or the intensity that you do throughout your life. Those joints are prone to getting affected more. So it messes up the age range.
Right. So why go into this? You're obviously fascinated by it and majoring
Yes.
in it, and you want to go into it. Why?
Well, I always knew I wanted to do something related to studying humans. It always fascinated me. I at first thought psychology, but then I didn't really see myself as a psychologist and counseling people. And then I found out about anthropology in general, and I was like, oh, this is really fascinating. So I started my undergrad in anthropology. And they make you take like core courses in anthropology, and so I had to take biological anthropology, and I like loved it. Like it was very interesting to look at the like science aspect of humans. And so I was like, okay, I want to do something related to the biology portion of humans. And that's when I took osteology and forensic anthropology. And I was amazed at how much you can tell from the bones of a person.
Well, I was going to say, so, you know, your next unidentified case, you're unpacking, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be fascinating, the story that you're going to find out. Is it?
Yes. Well,
Because obviously these tell the story.
they do. They do tell their own life story. A lot of the cases that we get, we are also asked to do trauma analysis. So a lot of them end up with some kind of trauma, either self-inflicted or otherwise. So we do get a really overall picture of what their life was like.
And their death.
And their death, yes.
Good deal. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah,
That was
welcome.
awesome.
And action.
Okay, so to estimate the sex, the most reliable bone is in the pelvis. So this is the os coxa, and both sides make up your pelvis together. And this is the most accurate bone because of the difference in males and females with childbirth. Females have to push a baby through their body and give birth. So there's a lot of shape differences that we use to estimate sex. One of them is the overall shape. Females have a bigger pelvic inlet as well as a broad subpubic angle right here, and then the shape of the pubis is more rectangular in females and then more triangular shaped in males.
Yep.
Take your hands away. Perfect. We can't say.
Sorry. I get too excited.
She's changing her major at the end of the day here. She's going to broadcasting.
You're doing great. Here we go, and action.
So for stature estimation, we use the measurements of the femur compared to the tibia. So we measure the bones with an osteometric board and use that ratio within some equations that are sex and population affinity specific to estimate the stature of a person.
Take your hands away. What's next? And action.
Okay, so for age estimates, we use sometimes the ribs. It's one of the methods that we use, and we use the rib end.
You're going to hold it. I'm sorry. And action.
Okay, so one of the ways we estimate age is using rib ends.
So don't hold it quite up there.
Sorry,
A
I
little
was
bit
just
low.
looking at it.
Stop looking
Don't
at
look
me.
at it. All right, put it back down again, please. Sorry. And action.
Okay, one of the ways that we estimate age is using the end of the ribs.
One more time. I'm going up there. It's fine. I just got to follow you better. It's my fault. Here we
Nope,
go.
you're good.
One more, and action.
One of the ways that we estimate age is using the ends of the ribs. And so these change throughout your life, and then usually they get a little bit deeper, and once you get to the older age ranges, you get some more like bony projections coming off of the ends. And so this is one of the ways that we estimate an age range. as well as there's other methods too, but this is a very like effective method.
Put it back.
Are we good?
Perfect.
Anything else?
Theater, so
Ah.
needs to, he's auditioning, so we'll, fingers crossed.
Fantastic.
I think what is wonderful with both of you is that, yeah, they're bones, but this was a person. They have a name. Why?
I guess it's the way that we treat those who have died is just as important as how we've treated them when they're alive. And giving them an identity when they aren't able to give one to themselves is kind of the most powerful thing about our work.
Why?
It's giving a voice to someone who can't speak for themselves anymore.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Very nice. So, what can you tell me? What can you learn from the skull there?
Yes, from the skull we can learn several things.
You can
Moving around.
point your-
Yeah, so the first would be estimating biological sex. And we look at several features of the skull in the facial region as well as in the occipital region, which is in the back here, to determine and estimate male or female. We can also estimate population affinity, which is related to ancestry and biological origins. And we do that by taking several points and measurements along the skull and inputting them through a computer program, and it estimates then statistically assigning a population which it most closely resembles. Mm-hmm.
The male and female, what are you looking at there?
Sure. So in males, we generally have a more robust skull, features of the skull, meaning that they're more pronounced or stronger. We can look at the glabella, which is kind of the upper, above the eye region, as well as the orbital margin here. So in females, the orbital margin is sharper and the glabella is smaller or less pronounced. In males, those both tend to be more rounded and larger.
So, what is that? Or who?
Sure. So.
Proper way to ask that, but male or female? There you go.
Right. So based on just morphological measurements and observations, if I feel the upper eye origin and orbit and look at the glabella, I would estimate this to be a female. And we do have an identity for the skeleton, so we can then compare that with what we know.
Okay. What else? So population affinity, male or female? Anything else you can tell from the skull?
Yes. So when in forensic anthropology, obviously the goal is to provide an identity to help law enforcement. And so we can look at the dentition, if we take x-rays, dental x-rays, and if there are x-rays provided to us to compare, then we can see if those x-rays are then the same individual. We also have sinuses in our frontal bone here, and they are provide a pattern that is unique to every individual, similar to maybe what you're more familiar with, like fingerprinting or something like that. And so we can take an x-ray, a frontal x-ray of the sinuses. Again, we would need a comparison to then determine if the x-ray from this individual matches that in-life x-ray of another individual and assign an identity.
The sign, we all have, really, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's kind of one of my favorite fun facts about kind of the skull or how we identify individuals is with the frontal sinuses.
That's my new favorite
Special.
fun fact too. That's cool. So, but you'd need an X-ray of the person's skull.
Correct,
to
yes.
compare.
So both of those things would need a comparison.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? I think that was all you would say.
Yeah, that was all I had spoken about before.
Okay. So why are you in this? So why are you in this?
Great question. I started out as an archaeologist studying human skeletons in the past and got to a point where I just felt like I wasn't doing enough to contribute to something that just greater than myself. Obviously, I was very interesting and fascinating and felt like I wanted to pursue something that made a little bit more of a difference to me. And I think looking at the skills that I had learned and gained from training as an archaeologist and a bioarchaeologist, how can I apply those to something similar and just as interesting with a little bit more influence, I guess, or impact maybe is a better word. And so I decided to pursue a degree in forensic anthropology.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Yeah. Oh,
And then hold it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go time.
Great.
Nice.
All right. So we look at some of the features in the facial region, the glabella, which is this area above the eyes here, as well as the upper rim of the eye orbit.
What's the next thing?
Dental? Oh, no.
Or population affinity. I talked about that as
Population
well.
affinity, yes. Yeah.
Sure. So we take several landmarks on the skull and put them into a statistical analysis to determine which population they're most likely related to.
Do that again, you sort of, we might actually use this.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
You-
I did trail off. I was like, oh
Where'd
gosh,
you go?
there's lots of words.
Yeah, here we go, and it's go time.
Sure. So we take, we measure landmarks on the skull using a 3D, sorry, I'm going to start that over. We take 3D landmarks on the skull and use them to measure distances from one another and assign them to a population.
Okay, what was next?
Nasal?
Or frontal sinuses.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And it's go
It's go
time.
time.
Sure. So each individual has a distinct frontal sinus pattern. So we use x-rays to take an image of that and compare those with possible identity of an in-life x-ray of an individual.
In-life X-ray.
Yeah.
That's close.
Okay,
That's
that's
all right.
close.
Yeah.
Let's do it one more time. And,
Sure.
you know, just continue to look down at the skull. I'm thinking about audience.
Okay.
We just-
Sure.
One more time, and it's go time.
Sure. So each individual has a unique frontal sinus, and we take x-rays of those post-mortem and compare them with ante-mortem x-rays. I used the words. I remembered the right words that time.
Wow.
Let's go time.
Damn, we can stop now. Wow.
Is there another? Okay, what was?
The dentition. Let me make
A
sure.
little bit
Yeah.
from the teeth. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, turn it back down and
Oh,
then
yeah.
turn it over and do your thing.
Okay.
It's go time.
We can also look at ante-mortem. I'm sorry.
Let's
Let
do
me
it
start
again.
over.
Here we go. Here we go. And go time.
We can also look at x-rays of the teeth and the dentition and compare these post-mortem x-rays to ante-mortem x-rays to help us identify an individual.
Flip it back over if you would.
Hmm.
Yeah, there we go.
Do it one more time. Turn it back and turn it over and go.
And you want me to speak?
Yes.
Okay. You want me to start over?
Ready, go.
We can also use post-mortem dentition x-rays and compare them to the ante-mortem x-rays provided by law enforcement.
Anything else?
No, that was good.
All right, good, great. Wonderful.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we just start there. So there's a chief medical examiner, but then what's your relationship with that office?
The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is here in Raleigh. North Carolina has a centralized system, but you also have satellite medical examiners across the state because obviously, you know, one office cannot handle the entire state. But my contract is directly with actually the Department of North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services through the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner.
Okay. And they are, and you're hard tissue experts, you said?
We are hard,
Yeah.
yes. So forensic pathologists or medical examiners, they're the ones that do autopsies, and they are soft tissue experts. So they're the ones that determine cause and manner of death. We do not make that assessment. That is their jurisdiction. We do not have jurisdiction of the body. The medical examiner does. So we are invited to participate, and we provide an opinion if they can't see something on soft tissue that may help them make that determination.
Okay. You made that point a couple times last night, too. It's just the facts. Your job is to look at the facts.
And present the facts.
Just the facts.
Just the facts. And stay in your lane.
What do you mean?
Like people overstating things and going into areas that they have no business going into.
Okay. So you report what the bones tell you.
Yeah, and without over interpreting. So you have to be very careful not to do over interpretation.
Bones tell a story, don't they?
Yes, they tell your life story.
Explain.
Well, they tell us about your childhood. They tell us about how you lived your life. For example, whether you experience malnutrition, issues with growth and development. All of that is recorded on your hard tissues.
Okay. And sometimes how you die.
Exactly,
Yeah.
how you die.
They made a point. You made a point last night, and I've heard you say it before. Identity and respect, and this person was alive. Elaborate on that.
Well, to put it simply, a personal identity is a basic human right. Right? Everybody is born and they have a name. They are given a name, and so after you die, if you don't know that person or that person becomes a Jane or a John Doe, they still deserve their name back. And it's been, actually, there have international declarations, and the United Nations has also stated this, that for unidentified remains, it is the responsibility of the state to find out who they are and repatriate them to their families.
And so that's how you got into the unidentified
Yes.
case. Explain that. How long have you been doing this now?
Well, we deal generally with unidentified cases, every other case, right? So we have a lot of unidentifieds that come through the lab. So then we develop that biological profile. When I really started concentrating on trying to solve the unidentified specifically, it started in 2018, where we started reanalyzing all the cases, the cold unidentified cases for North Carolina. We started redoing all the anthropology, because some had it done over 10 years ago, including by myself, but new technologies, right, come on, you have new methods. Some were never reviewed by a forensic anthropologist, so we were just kind of systematically going through the cases.
Mm-hmm. And you've solved several, quite a few, you said.
Yes, we have solved six, I believe, yes,
Okay.
as of this year. And the difference is you have to work in a multidisciplinary setting, right? Anthropology is not solving them. Anthropology just provides a very small piece of the puzzle. It requires the medical examiner. It requires law enforcement. We need investigations. Without them, we can't do it. And when the cases warrant, we will also send them out for forensic genetic genealogy. And the forensic genealogist uses our reports to guide her in building her trees.
I would say that, that's a huge help, and that's a fairly new area of expertise, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And that would get you to what? I guess to the general family, to the family.
No, it'll get you back to the person
It
who,
will
who
be.
it is
Okay, it will be that.
through their family. So it's kind of like the opposite of when people submit their DNA to find out their family origins.
Right.
You're just doing it backwards. You're
Right.
trying to find that one origin that you don't know who it is instead of you finding your family. So we find the family and go back to that, the identity. And even though they are identified by forensic genealogy, then we send out for a familial DNA match. Because if you think about it, forensic genetic genealogy is not science. It has DNA, but the genealogy part is not scientific. You need a scientific validation for that identity.
That's true. Okay. Okay. It's gotta be a good feeling when you solve one of those cases.
Yeah. My colleague, Leslie Kaufman, who does our genealogy, she gets so excited. Yeah.
What's the feeling like? You know, you've done all this, and you're like, I know who this person is.
Well, it's bittersweet, you know. We had one case that didn't have a name, and they died in 1976. Family had been hoping and waiting to see them walk through the door all those years. So now they know, which is good, but it's still painful for them.
Yeah. Is that the Vietnam veteran?
Yes.
Nate was telling us about that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it's a homicide case, so they're still investigating.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever get, I mean, not depressed is the word, but I mean, I'm looking at the skeleton here and the ballistic, you know, patterns or traces and all that. Do you ever get depressing sometimes?
No, maybe paranoid, but not depressing. Lock the door. Don't leave the window open. Are you kidding me? There's crazies out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. So the unidentified cases. So are there? So as you know, Nate or someone in some agency is coming to you and saying, "Can you help me with this?" How does? How
Well,
does
you know, it's the way it normally works is that the medical examiners has jurisdiction of all the bodies, unidentified or not. So I have to gain custody from them through the Emmys. Nate had this unusual situation where we had sets of remains that had been housed at another university.
You told me about this too. Yes.
Yes, and I guess I shall not name them. And they were trying to get rid of them. And so they just pawned it all off. And since they were so old, the medical examiners didn't want to reopen anything or do anything. So I have those cases, and we're working through those as well.
Yeah. Okay. Are there some? There's probably some that are so old, or the evidence, whatever, is not complete. Some you're just not going to be able to.
Correct. And so part of what the team does is we triage them to assess which one has the better chance of solvability using advanced technology. So we can't afford to do forensic genetic genealogy for all of them. It's like $7,500 per case. Whereas when you do familial DNA, it's like a couple $100 now, right? And law enforcement doesn't have the funds. The MEs certainly don't have the funds, and I certainly don't have a personal bank account like that either.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the ones that you've got a decent chance to.
A decent chance, and the way we evaluate that is how much of the remains are left, what can we gain from the skeleton that we can, you know, can we get a full profile? How much information is available to law enforcement, right? So at one point they had a case open. Is the information still there? Is it sufficient to kind of move this forward with an investigation. So it kind of requires a lot of areas.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add? No? Bob, anything else? Okay.
And what was the thing we said, wooden action, what was it?
It was
Go. No.
something.
It's go time.
Go time.
It's go time. Okay, let's lay and set it down. Perfect, and go. Take it away, and when I say go, just put her back in position. And go. All over and go. Did you make it appear one more time? Can you do that?
No,
No, it's not.
gave me an error
Okay.
because I didn't want it to go all the way in
Right,
because I
right,
didn't
right.
take anything.
Okay, good. And go time. Cool.
Oh.
And so I'm trying to jimmy rig if I can take dentals on this thing.
So with that device, you would just see the
Yes,
the
it's the
teeth.
same kind of device that they use in a dental office.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
cool. Dental's going high-tech.
Haven't they?
Oh, yeah. Did the night guard and it was all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the
CT.
panoramic?
They scanned it.
Yeah, the pano.
Mm-hmm.
So
Welcome sign.
get your,
Perfect.
Go get it.
hang on a second. You looked at me.
I did?
Yeah, you did.
All right.
You've been sneaking looks at me.
There we go.
And go. All right, come on back out with your clicker, please. Push time. Perfect. Gluteus maximus. I like it.
Shar-Pays. I've had Shar-Pei for like a million years. My dogs. And she was fine for a long time. She outlived what they said she did.
When's a year?
Yeah, they haven't asked me to do. Yeah. They brush your teeth. Yeah, and then you wonder, it's like, that's what I was trying to do. Yeah, so at that point, we have to go.
Right, right.
But that's not. That's what's listed. That's not necessarily what we really have to do. They don't put them into the system, into that main system. That we know of. Yeah, we were done with that case. That case was returned. Just left the voters.
What was that?
Shot at this 8 times. 3 times in the head.
Oh.
And they ask us because the enemy doesn't do sequence direction. And we all have no trouble. That's right.
Thanks for what? Being electron microscopy, but we don't use that. We're using let's see the one that
Reversed. Yeah, we stay open.
electron probe analysis.
Seriously, Tim? Why are you here?
Similar to the paraffin embedding bones notification.
So I just got the
it should work.